On March 8, 2014, a silence more chilling than any storm settled over the skies between Malaysia and China. Just after midnight, a Boeing 777 Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370 ascended from Kuala Lumpur, bound for Beijing. On board, 239 men, women, and children. They vanished. No distress call, no explosion on radar, no debris in the busy shipping lanes. For a moment, it was as if the world paused, the tick of the clock growing louder, a faint static whispering across empty airwaves. A modern aircraft, with all the technology and redundancy decades of aviation advancement could provide, simply erased from history. In the years since, the fate of MH370 has become the greatest unsolved mystery of modern aviation, a riddle that haunts the minds of investigators, families, and anyone who's ever glanced at a departures board and trusted in the science of flight. MH370's journey began like any other. At 0041 local time, the aircraft lifted off into the humid night air, climbing steadily toward cruising altitude. The flight was routine, its crew experienced, its passengers asleep or settling in for the red-eye. At 0119 a.m., as the plane crossed from Malaysian into Vietnamese airspace, air traffic control heard its final, almost mundane words. "Good night, Malaysian 370. 2 minutes later, the plane's transponder, a device that broadcasts its position to radar, went silent. But the plane didn't simply fall from the sky. Instead, Malaysian military radar tracked a sharp, deliberate turn to the west, away from its planned path. MH370 flew back across the Malay Peninsula, skirted the northern tip of Sumatra, and then, as if swallowed by the black expanse of the southern Indian Ocean, vanished from all radars. Not a single mayday, not a flicker of a beacon. The world awoke to the news with disbelief, then horror. Families crowded airport lounges, staring at arrival boards stuck on delayed. Officials scrambled, first to find the plane, then to explain how a state-of-the-art airliner could disappear in a world blanketed with satellites and sensors. What followed was the largest, most expensive search operation in aviation history. Malaysia, Australia, China, and a score of other nations mobilized ships, planes, and submarines, scouring over 120,000 square kilometers of ocean. At first, the search focused on the South China Sea, the plane's intended path. But as data trickled in, military radar records, satellite logs, the search shifted, hundreds of miles southwest, into one of the most remote stretches of ocean on Earth. Surface vessels combed the waves, while deep-sea drones mapped the seabed, revealing underwater canyons never before seen by human eyes. Yet for months, nothing was found. Not a seat cushion, not a life jacket, not a single body. It was as if the plane had been plucked cleanly from the sky. Hope flickered in 2015 when a barnacle-encrusted flaperon, the trailing edge of a wing, washed ashore on Reunion Island in the Indian Ocean. Experts confirmed it belonged to MH370. Over the next few years, a handful of other fragments appeared on distant shores, a piece of tail in Mozambique, a cabin panel in Madagascar. Each clue tantalized, but none led searchers to the main wreckage. The fuselage, the black boxes, the truth. They remained hidden beneath thousands of meters of cold, crushing water. Desperate for answers, investigators turned to the digital breadcrumbs left behind by the aircraft's systems. Even after the transponder went dark, MH370's satellite antenna continued sending routine handshakes, brief signals, to an Inmarsat satellite orbiting overhead. These so-called pings allowed analysts to reconstruct two possible flight paths, known as the Northern Arc, stretching toward Central Asia, and the Southern Arc, plunging into the vastness of the Indian Ocean. Careful analysis of the satellite data, combined with drift modeling of the discovered debris, pointed overwhelmingly to a southern trajectory. The final handshake occurred at 0819 a.m., 7 hours after takeoff, suggesting the plane had flown until it ran out of fuel then crashed into the ocean, far from any shipping lane or island outpost. But without the main wreck, even the best satellite forensics left investigators in the dark. The vacuum of evidence gave rise to a storm of theories, some grounded in fact, others in fear, speculation, or even fantasy. One of the most persistent focuses on Captain Zahari Ahmad Shah, the flight's veteran pilot. Authorities discovered that Zahari had used his home flight simulator to plot routes over the remote Indian Ocean, eerily similar to the theorized final path of MH370. Some investigators, including Australia's lead, Peter Foley, suggested the crash bore the hallmarks of a deliberate act, possibly a murder-suicide. But no motive was ever found, and Zahari's family and friends have fiercely defended his character. Other theories abound. Some point to the possibility of a hijacking, perhaps by terrorists or even a rogue passenger with aviation knowledge. There are whispers of military intervention, with the plane shot down and the evidence hidden. Mechanical failure is another contender. A catastrophic event, such as a fire or loss of cabin pressure, could have incapacitated the crew and passengers, leaving the plane to fly on autopilot until fuel exhaustion. This hypoxia scenario, where everyone on board loses consciousness, would explain the lack of distress calls, but it doesn't account for the abrupt and deliberate change of course. Then there are the conspiracy theories, ranging from the outlandish to the paranoid. Some claim the plane was stolen and hidden on a remote island, or that it was abducted by aliens. Others weave tales of shadowy government plots, secret cargo, or espionage gone wrong. But in all these years, no credible evidence has emerged to support such claims. In the decades since the disappearance, hope has waxed and waned with each new lead. In late 2024, the Malaysian government announced a renewed search, partnering with US-based marine robotics company Ocean Infinity. The plan, to scour a new 15,000 square kilometer area of the southern Indian Ocean, guided by refined drift models and satellite data. The agreement, worth up to $70 million, was based on a no-find, no-fee arrangement. If MH370's wreckage was located, Ocean Infinity would be paid. Sadly, in April 2025, the search was paused due to rough seas, adding yet another chapter to the saga of frustration and heartbreak. Meanwhile, families of the missing continue to demand answers. Some recently released documents revealed that extra fuel and cockpit oxygen were loaded onto MH370 before departure, details that stoked further suspicion of premeditation. For the relatives of the lost, each revelation is both a flicker of hope and a reopening of old wounds. They yearn not only for closure but for accountability, for the assurance that their loved one's fate will not be left to rot at the bottom of the ocean, forgotten by history. The impact of MH370's disappearance ripples far beyond the families and the investigators. It has shaken public faith in the safety and transparency of modern aviation. How, people ask, can a plane with 239 people aboard simply vanish in the era of smartphones and global positioning satellites? The incident exposed startling gaps in flight tracking, leading to major reforms. Airlines and regulators now demand real-time tracking of commercial jets over oceans, and black box beacons are required to transmit for longer durations. International aviation protocols have been rewritten, but the most important question, what happened to MH370, remains unanswered. 239 souls were lost that night. No survivors, no confirmed wreckage, no bodies to bury. For the families, there is only grief, speculation, and a gnawing distrust of every official statement. For the world, there is the uneasy knowledge that in our age of constant surveillance, some mysteries can still slip through the cracks. The search for MH370 is more than a quest for a missing airplane. It's an indictment of our limits, a reminder that even now the sea can keep its secrets. So what really happened to MH370? Was it pilot suicide, a desperate, inexplicable act by a trusted professional? Was it a hijacking, a mechanical failure, or something far stranger? With no flight data recorder, no cockpit voice recorder, the truth remains a ghost. glimpsed only in satellite echoes and the stories of barnacles clinging to distant debris. What do you believe happened to MH370? Did someone on board steer it to oblivion, or was it a tragic accident compounded by failure after failure? Or do you have a theory no one has dared to voice? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Let's see which theory you find most convincing. And if you want to go even deeper into the enigma of Flight 370, into the pilot's mysterious simulator files, the haunting clues from the black boxes, and the testimonies of those who saw and heard things that night, subscribe to No Face Files. Part 2 is coming soon, where we'll unravel even more of the secrets behind this vanishing, and perhaps come one step closer to the truth.